So, so thanks and welcome again today. As you heard, we are going to talk about foodways, and then after that we will. I have two more sessions: the photography and the plant collection session. So about foodways, what are foodways? Foodways. What are foodways? Maybe we talk about foodways before we add traditional foodways. What are foodways? What are foodways? Foodways, as Yasu indicated yesterday, is actually the whole process of acquiring food through whichever means, be it wild from the wild, or from cultivation, or from the market.
That is something we didn't say about our foods.
Yes, yes.
We didn't talk about acquisition.
Yeah. How you acquire the food, or how you produce the food to the home. Once is it at the home, how do you process it? How do you store it? How do you process it? Up to the time it gets to the table, who eats? And after eating, what knowledge we have about the effects of that particular food. All that is foodways. It's foodway because it's linear. It's actually linear from production all the way to consumption. And if we add traditional foods, traditional foodways, the term traditional, then it takes us to our traditions, our culture, and therefore in our case here we are going to talk about traditional foodways. I don't have a definition of traditional foodways, but maybe this long statement may explain what it is, but it's basically what I've explained. It involves practices transmitted within a community concerning obtaining food. That means growing or gathering, harvesting, storage, preparation, consumption of the food within a traditional or cultural setting. And it also involves ceremonies, rituals, social practices, festivities, and any events that call for specific foods being served, and again here on a cultural setting. And I've indicated there, traditional foodways is one of the subjects which are really important, especially to UNESCO, because they represent one of the segments of intangible cultural heritage. Intangible in the sense that you cannot touch it. It's knowledge. It's a type of knowledge. With that definition, let's go to our next slide. Why document foodways? Some of these are very well known to you, that due to globalization, modernization, and urbanization, we are losing foodways, especially the knowledge related to foodways, but also not only the knowledge, but also the variety of foods that constitute the foodways, and in some cases even the species themselves, because as you'll see later, there is interrelationship between that knowledge and the species. Once one is gone, then the other one cannot exist in isolation. When you lose the knowledge, the variety of the species cannot exist in isolation, because it loses value, it loses the meaning. Of course, we are interested in, I talked about the intangible cultural heritage and UNESCO. In 2003, they had what we call the Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. And Kenya is committed to this. I think it signed up to this convention. And therefore, as a country, I don't know about Japan, as a country we are supposed to document traditional foodways and any other related intangible cultural heritage. I've introduced something else here which is also important, which is of global importance, and that's food sovereignty. And I've given a small definition here. So food sovereignty is actually the right to your own food, the food of your choice. That is a fundamental right. Food sovereignty ensures that we we eat the food we like, especially local foods, which are in many cases healthy, culturally appropriate, produced within sound ecological settings, and the production is sustainable. And now there are many global movements about this. So people do not have to force other people's foods into others' cuisines. You can look it up later. And so Foodways is one way of ensuring that we achieve food sovereignty. And then the last one, traditional foodways are associated with the diverse diets and sustainable diets. Now there's a big movement globally about sustainable diets. We need to eat diets that are diverse and again produced in ecologically sound environments, as opposed to things like mass production, where you apply a lot of fertilizers, you apply a lot of pesticides, you are growing the foods in monocrops. So sustainable diets promote multi-cropping instead of monocropping. Monocropping is where you just grow one crop like maize, kilometers after kilometers. So that's not what is encapsulated here. So traditional foodways also help us go this way, sustainable diets. And then documentation. If we document traditional foodways, it means even if we lose that knowledge, we can recreate the foodways in future. So you have something to a backup. You have something to fall back to. And of course, right now, people like Fiona and my friend are most affected, in the sense that the youth is for modernity, and as we go towards Western living, of course, the tendency would be going to fast foods, which are not healthy and which are not sustainable. Okay. Then how do we document foodways? The example I'm going to give you is documentation that involves schools. And this is what we have done in the coast, and among the Isuha of Western Kenya, and also among the Pokot. But we also did something similar in Burkina Faso with Yasu, and also in Ethiopia. But the example I'm going to give is in the work we have been doing among the Mijikenda. So in Foodways, in this particular example, where you are involving the youth, the participants are pupils, teachers. Pupils are the ones documenting. Teachers are the mentors or the guides. Parents are the resource people. But then you need a fourth person who is a sort of a coordinator. The coordinator is somebody from outside the school. Could be from a CBO with a resource center, an NGO, or even a project like what we had. And what the coordinator does is just to do mobilization, to visit the schools, introduce the idea, and monitor. But also, when the data is finally obtained, the coordinator is the one responsible for data synthesis and dissemination. Maybe Yasu and Fiona, in case you have something to add, you can just feel free to add it. But then you have a whole list of stakeholders who have interest in Foodways. And in our case, among the Mijikenda, the county government is one. And anyone who has interest in nutrition and agrobiodiversity, and even biodiversity in general. So, how do you prepare to collect data? First of all, this teacher, the head teacher and his teachers, or her teachers, are approached and they discuss the idea. In many cases, you use two teachers. In case one falls sick, the other one continues. And also, what does the teacher do? The teacher is the one who mentors the pupils who are doing the documentation work. The teacher also does the selection of the pupils. And in many cases, we prefer pupils who are 10 to 13 years old, because below that they are too young to understand the concept, and above that they become too busy with other things like the exams. We have been recommending 30 pupils per school, plus or minus 10. And of course, the first thing we do is to train the teachers, who in turn train the pupils. But in some cases, we train both. We can train the teachers and the pupils together if they are available. What is the role of the teacher? The teacher reads the pupil stories once they are written, and he or she is supposed to add value, mark. It's like a composition or an essay. And to add value, we mean you correct spellings, the grammar, and also the content. You add value to the content. The teacher also keeps the camera, and in case the camera memory cards are full, the teacher offloads them to another computer or some other storage. And the teacher is also the one who keeps a record of all this stuff which is produced by the pupils. And what's the role of the pupil? The pupil, in consultation with the teacher, chooses a topic. A topic could be like Manago. He or she says, I want to write about Manago. Or Musunga, for example, in the case of the coastal people. And then the pupil goes and gathers all available knowledge, information about that specific food, then writes an essay and brings the essay to the teacher, who, as we said earlier, tries to add value, spellings, grammar, and also looks at the content. In case there is something missing, he advises the child to go and do correct. So the teacher basically improves the essay. We encourage pupils to borrow a camera from the teacher. Of course, pupils don't keep the camera. We provide cameras, but the pupils don't keep the camera. It's the teacher who keeps. And then the pupils, after borrowing, goes and takes photos. And when they bring the photos back, together with the teacher, they write a caption. And this is not too big. Maybe, I don't know. They write a caption for the good photographs. And the basic information required within a caption is, for example, who is in the picture. If there is a person in the picture, you need to identify the people in the picture. And if possible, have full names. And the convention is to name left to right. What is the picture about? So you need to describe the picture, what you want to communicate in the picture, very briefly. Where was it taken, and when was the photo taken? In many cases, like when I take a picture using my mobile phone, already it gives the GPS coordinates and meaning where it was taken, and also the date when it was taken. But when I give it to Tindi, sometimes that information gets lost, especially if you change the picture. If you tamper with the original picture, you may lose when and where. So sometimes it's also important to put when and where.